Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. This is your post first round of the NBA draft podcast. I'm here with editor-in-chief Cray Allred. Cray, how are you, man?
Womp womp. I'm all right. Could be better. I feel like that's always, it feels like a Thunder, not like a series loss, but like a playoff loss, maybe. Not like, they're not down 3-1, but, not thrilled.
Not thrilled. Let's recap it. The Thunder stay at 12, and they take Aday Mara from Michigan. Another center. There's lots to talk about with that pick. At 17, they end up trading 17 and 2 future seconds to the Grizzlies to move up one spot to 16 to take Bennett Stirtz, guard from Iowa.
Nobody's
Let's
favorite.
start.
No,
Let's
no one's favorite at either
let's
spot.
start. Let's start with. Let's start with 5. So the Clippers stay, and they take Keaton Wagler. 6, Brooklyn stays, and did they took Michael Brown. 7, the Kings stayed and took Acuff. 8, Atlanta stayed. They took Kingston Flemings. And then for the next hour, it was just gut punch after gut punch, maybe 40 minutes.
Yeah, there were a few
At
in there.
9, the Dallas Mavericks with new head coach since last time we talked, with new head coach Dusty May from Michigan. They take Morez Johnson at 9. That was the first, how like in political campaigns, like if it's a presidential campaign, like a certain state goes not your way, and then it's like, well, here comes the cascading effects of losing that state
Yeah, the early signal.
or that
The
county.
precincts are reporting.
Yeah. Or
Not
like
looking great.
in
It's not
as far
over, but
or like best editing went to the movie you didn't think would win best picture, and like best editing goes a certain way, best screenplay goes a certain way, and it starts to signal what's coming with best picture, and it's not really what you want. This is how I felt once Morez went. Milwaukee, who traded Giannis last night, picked up the 13th pick from Miami in that trade. They now have 2 picks. They stay at 10, and they take Braden Burries from Arizona, and that's your backbreaker right there. That is, you lost the swing state right there, and as soon as that happened, I was pretty convinced that Yaxel would then get taken at 11. So
even if not Yaxel, we knew like the quote unquote best players available that were gonna be on the board were gonna be the raw, the just on assumptions on the Warriors, right? That they were not gonna scoop a Nate Mint or a Aday Mara.
I thought there might be a chance that they took Mara.
I was hoping they would.
I didn't think they would take Steinbach, but I did hope they would take Mara. That was really your last chance. If you aren't a Mara guy, you were probably hoping for Golden State to take him there. So many questions. So once Yaxel goes at 11, what were you, not necessarily who did you think we would take, but just what were your feelings once Oklahoma City was on the clock?
Just wanted to trade down because I knew there was, who really knows, but the draft pretty much played out to that point on kind of like, very close, at least on expected value. And I think we have talked briefly about Nate Ament. I was pretty scared about that. And a lot of Thunder fans were scared.
He was the one who needed to go early.
Yeah.
He was the one that needed to go at 10. Milwaukee ends up taking him at 13 with that second pick, but if they would have just taken him at 10, OKC was in business. Now, I say that, but there has been reporting since the Thunder made the pick at 12, that Presti was trying to move up in the draft for Mara and then was able to get him at 12. So as much as I want to say that had Nate Ament gone at 10, Oklahoma City would have had at least the choice of Yaxel or Burries. Like they it sounds like they probably still go Mara at 12, but like could you imagine if Yaxel and Burries both fell or one of them fell and they chose Mara over Burries or Mara over Yaxel?
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
That
So
that
I will say, like, yeah, there were worse fears, like I said, and I do think Ament was the big fear. It all kinda centered on him. I think there was also I mean, there was a fear that the Thunder were gonna trade up to 9-4 with all the Mavericks stuff.
I never thought that would be a possibility. I thought
I would have
they were
been
going to
shocked if it was
9,
for him. I wouldn't have been shocked if they did it, you know?
I thought if they were going to 9, it would be for
Burries or
Burries or Mara
yeah,
or Merez.
yeah.
So, they're picking another center brings up a huge question, and that is, how are the Isaiah Hartenstein negotiations going? And I don't know how to take, like, the Thunder were trying to move up for Mara. I don't know how to take that as anything other than, like, concern for Hartenstein. And that doesn't mean I don't mean that as in, like, Hartenstein is, like, for sure getting traded, but, like, maybe the number is just maybe they're just too far apart, and maybe they just pick up the team option and just see Mara as, like, hopefully, a long-term replacement. This is literally word for word what we said about Thomas Sorber last year as, like, a hopeful long-term replacement, and now we're here having drafted another center that it sounds like Sam was, like, very in on, like, very much wanted him. So, it's hard to like, I don't know how else to how what to think other than, like, these dots are connecting, and it feels like some concern for the Hardenstein negotiation.
Sorry, I was muted. I don't know if we should overread it. Um,
You think it's just, like, maybe, like, best player available. If it's not so much that they took him at 12, it's the reports that they were, like, really trying to move up for the guy
yeah,
they took at 12.
but I want like
And maybe that's not true. I don't know.
I know, yeah, that's the part. Like, one, the lottery reform stuff seems to have, is gonna have some effects. Most people think a chilling effect so far on pick trades. I will say the move from 17 to 16 just for 2 seconds seems pretty cheap. So I don't really know what to think about the liquidity, I guess, of the pick market. And I mean, I also
To
just
be
think
cl
like
to be clear, they traded 17 plus 2
well,
seconds.
yeah, yeah, sorry. But so their cost to move up a spot
Yes,
was 2 seconds, and which they've got a few
because there was
second
some
rounders.
confusion. There was some confusion. Shams originally
Oh, yeah,
tweeted,
yeah, yeah,
so I
yeah.
just wanted to just for clarity.
Yeah, yeah, it was yeah, yeah. Some people thought, "Whoa, we were striking gold."
Yeah. Yes.
That would've been nice, but I never thought that seemed likely, but, yeah, I forgot about that, but anyway, I also Presti has so many picks. Like, right now they have 16 players, 15 slots. That could change with the Hartenstein and Dort and Kenrich Williams decisions, but
I'll add Topic to that list.
yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, Isaiah Joe, that's probably about the extent of things that wouldn't, surprise me the remainder of this offseason, but he's 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 only got so many slots, and I just truly believe and he's been very open about how much he needs to gauge value above and below them and outside of the draft, right? So, I just wonder how much of they wanna trade up is really just they're just, poking really hard for great value. And also, if you do have a target, I have no idea what the war room's really like, but I would assume you're just kinda prodding, trying to figure out, is someone really gonna take our guy who we think might be around at even 17, you know? So, I don't know. I kinda think that was my initial takeaway was, okay, and that's we've talked about, is that, you get the 7-3 guy. We just had our Victor problems. We just had our Chet problems. We
Yeah,
have
I
I Hart.
for the record, I don't think he solves either problem.
I mean, not immediately, right? I don't think the biggest Mara fans would think he's gonna walk in and be a Wemby stopper, you know?
No one's going to be, and I felt like I left the Spurs series feeling pretty good about the way Hardenstein was able to guard him. I didn't leave thinking that we had a serious issue in how we're going to guard Wemby. I left that series bummed that we had injured players and feeling like we needed more pop on the perimeter and more people who can shoot. And uh, God bless Bennett Stirtz. I don't think they like addressed any of those things tonight with two pretty valuable picks in what feels like the last, really good draft for a while.
I'm with you.
Did you
And I
who
can
did you want at 12? Like once what were you just like, okay, it's Mara? Or was there someone else that you were like, they should take him here?
my guy. I would have taken, Jalen Swain at that
That was
point,
the guy I was thinking about too.
and I know, he wasn't. That's the thing, it may not have been good value or whatever, and maybe they should have traded down, but he did end up going 15. I think he rose quite a bit
Mhm.
overall, and also, aside from the picks, they didn't get a wing, period. So, and they just don't have a lot of, like you've talked about at length. We've talked about a lot of size on the wing. They have talent.
Cray,
So
they don't have any.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
They
they've
don't
got,
have
J-Dub
they don't
is
have any.
J-Dub's an I would say, for a modern NBA offense and defense, he's a, average size with a plus wingspan, but he's not a big, he's not like a huge 3 by any means. And if he's playing the 4, he's, one of the Mighty Mouse guys playing the 4 and 5. So, yeah, they're really not. They don't have size. They got 2 7-footers, and they do have size at the 1 and 2, but they do not have
Well, now they have 3 7-footers and
3. You're
2
right. Yeah, sorry.
they have
Yeah.
3 7-footers and 2 6'9" guys who can't play anything other than the 5 in Sorber and J. Will. I should let me
You're
rephrase.
not gonna give Sorba the inch, the 6'10" in sneakers?
Sure, I'm fine with that, but
He's got the rear end, you
my
know?
point is those guys aren't perimeter players.
Yeah, yeah,
Aside from,
they're not even close. Yeah.
J. Will's spaces, and that's to his credit, and we've seen J. Will play with Chet and with we haven't seen him play with Hartenstein much, but we've seen him play with Chet a decent amount now. So, they will go to that, but that's not considered like that lineup is always deemed like a double big lineup for Oklahoma City. They're not Jay Will is not a wing player. So that's kind of my point is that there are 5 centers essentially on this team. That's a third of the players you're allowed to have. Um, I get I'm if they deemed Mara was the best player available, like the board really did shake out poorly. I thought. Like I was really disappointed, like we talked about from 9, 10, 11 was about as poorly as it could have gone, and you're just hoping that Milwaukee would reach for a mint, and getting that second pick last night probably, that hurt the chances of them because I do think they really liked Nate, but that getting that second pick and the way Burries fell to them, you just have to take him, given that you have another pick on the way. But
Uh,
yeah, like it's just a bunch of bigs, man. It's a bunch of bigs. I don't know where them like, is he like, just from strictly from a value perspective, someone that they have invested in, whether that's last year's 15th pick in Sorber, this year's 12th pick in Mara, 9 million a year over 3 years to J Will. Someone's value goes down because someone's minutes go down. Or Mara just doesn't get on the floor very much early on. He
Yeah,
didn't play very much at Michigan, per game. Played like he didn't even play 25 minutes a game in college. Um, I think
he's big, he's slow, he's
he's like just drop coverage. Like,
yeah.
this is not a switchable big, and he cannot shoot. And
He doesn't make a lot of sense, he really doesn't. I'm trying to be
it
open-minded,
it
and
doesn't make a lot of sense to me given the Sorber pick last year. And again, if what is coming is a trade of Isaiah Hardenstein, it makes a little more sense. And I want to emphasize little because I don't think Mara does enough of the Hardenstein stuff to be like, oh, we'll just like slot him in next to Chet.
yeah,
And who knows if this team, if they trade Hardenstein, is like in the you would think, given the way that they've made decisions, that they're going to continue playing Chet, like starting Chet at the 4, playing Chet a lot at the 4. But I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss. I was
yeah, I
really
think
go ahead.
well, we got company,
We've got company.
the
The company I wanted.
who's
Brandon,
scared.
can you hear us?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rabar is joined. He's been a busy man tonight. Brandon, were you at the facility?
Was not at the facility. I was at 1077 The Franchise. I was doing a live radio show
Right on.
How are the
here at
live
OKC.
vibes?
Live vibes are good. Live vibes are good. It was look, I don't know what's been discussed or not yet, but in the in the in the
We need some sunshine, I'll be
All that
honest.
matters, Brandon, is your thoughts. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
okay,
Just
that's what I was wondering.
start wherever you want.
Okay, so here's the deal. I've made no I've not been shy at all that my favorite guys, my favorite targets were Merez Johnson Jr. and Braden Burries and Yaxel Lindenberg. And they went back to back to back right before the Thunder fell. I thought like once they were all three available, like 4 picks before the Thunder, I was like, hey, one or two of those guys might be available. That would be a home run pick. And then Burries gets picked. I'm like, all right, or I'm sorry, Merez Johnson Jr. gets picked way higher than everybody expected. And that's like been my dude. I've been on him for so long and so early. So on one hand, I'm like, hey, cool. My guy got picked way earlier than anybody expected. A month ago, he was expected to go like 15 plus, and now he goes 9. But then on the other hand, that's who I wanted the Thunder to pick. But then I was like, hey, but Burries and Yaxel are still there. And then Burries goes because I thought that the Bucks were going to select Nate Ament. And Burries goes, I'm like, oh, brutal. But at least Yaxel's still there. And then Yaxel goes. So this is what I would say the way that the board fell, I think that Aday Mara was absolutely the right pick. A 7'3" dude who is an elite rim protector, can score in the paint, uh, and his playmaking, like the big headline with him is the playmaking. Like his passing for a dude who's 7'3", has a 7'6" wingspan is just outstanding. So I think that getting a dude like that at number 12, who some people thought might go as high as number 6 to the Nets, I think the value is great. And I think he can be a helpful player for the Thunder. I would have preferred Merez Johnson Jr. or Braden Burries or Yaxel, but that's just not the way that the board fell.
Brandon, my number one question, we were just discussing this is just it's a lot of centers on the roster now. A lot of centers. And is there any does this make you think any differently about Isaiah Hardenstein being on the team as soon like as far as this coming season?
No, I think honestly it was just best player available. And that's how like once the board fell that way, I was like, they gotta go Mara. But just because I felt like he was so much better than Nate Mint, I felt like he was much better than Dalen Swain, who I liked. I like Dalen Swain. Wasn't big on Nate Mint, but I was like, you gotta take Mara just because he's the best player and he's the best value. And you just gotta, to me, you gotta project like past like over the next few years. You got Hartenstein, you got Chet, you got Sorber, but he's just a great player. And so to get a player like that, I think you just got to take him. I don't think it means anything for the next couple of years, but a down the line Hartenstein replacement or injury replacement for either Chet or Hartenstein. Also, some insurance in case you don't know what you have in Sorber. So now you kind of have two swings at a backup big apple. And if one of those hit, Sorber or Mara, that's a huge win. So I just think you take the best player, the best value, and you're looking at the next, this is a cost controlled rookie contract for the next half decade, and then it's restricted free agency. So you're looking at like the next decade of a dude who's 7'3", who can really help you, I think.
And
I
and so one thing we
I
have,
think that is a great, like, other side given what Cray and I have talked about so far. Go ahead, Cray.
yeah, so the two things, it's always talent and fit, right? And the truth is both are very hard to discern. You don't really know. I think I feel fairly good about Sturts. It's like you're trying to read the philosophy of the roster building, but also who they thought was the most talented at the same time, and it's just not easy to do. And like, half of the lottery picks, half of everyone from 1 to 16 are not going to be, really solid good players, right? And that could be they could have two of the really, really good ones or two of the lemons or a mixture. That's kind of how it goes. And there's no GM that can perfectly hit all. I think probably the most simple way to look at it is outside of the Hart sign and Dort. I would throw Dort in because we do have 16 players now. Is we've got a 2-man at minimum. We have a 2-man, basically 2-man rookie competition for backup point guard and backup center, power forward center between Sorber, Amara, and Topic and Sturts. And maybe it's as simple as that. That I don't know if it's a summer competition or a regular season competition, but there's it seems unlikely that all four of those very young pieces at the pretty much at the very extreme ends of the 1 position and the 5 position are going to really carve out a role on an already crowded championship level rotation in the next 2-3 years. So I don't, I don't know that we can discern a lot from it in the short term. But it's not just a glut in the front court. I mean, can I read you guys some names? Count as I go. So we got Nikola Topic, Alex Caruso, Isaiah Joe, Lou Dort, AJ Mitchell, Kason Wallace, Jared McCain, Bennett Stirtz. Technically even Jada can play the 2. Like we're upwards of 8 guards
I think you
behind
just listed
Shea.
I think you listed 9, including J-Dub.
That's not including Jada. Yeah, and if you include Jada and Shea, that's 10 guys who can play the true guard position. That's so many guards, and that's having just a Wiggins. So it might mean just as much about the Dort slash. I mean, Wiggins obviously is gone, and maybe throw Joe in there. And you were speculating maybe Ryan, maybe Topic as well. Maybe it means as much about that end of the roster as it does in the front court.
Yeah, Brandon, there's some talk on the timeline calling Bennett Stirtz a supercomputer. Do you wanna just talk about Bennett Stirtz? Just granted, just full disclosure, another guy I was a pretty big eye roll when that trade came through. I was kind of excited to see Memphis take him, and then I was like, about 2 minutes later.
Okay, Thunder fans, Cray jumping in here. Gonna do a little ad read for none other than dailythunder.com. Just so you know, we are primarily reader-supported site. We reject gambling money, futures trading. You know who I'm talking about. The folks ruining the internet and rooting Thunder and NBA coverage. We've had offers. We've been invited to join the club to boost the algorithm with tweeting charts that move the action and make people mad and play to the lowest common denominator. That's not what we're about. We're here to follow the game, give real analysis, and be genuine in our takes. So please consider logging on dailythunder.com. We have subscriptions to keep our newsletter in your inbox. We've got pregame coverage, postgame coverage, link roundups, featured articles, We have goofy stuff. We have Saturday morning cartoons with vintage clips from the Thunder past. We have playbook items with games for the nerds, crossword puzzles, Shea Sweeper or Minesweeper knockoff. We got it all. Anything you want. If you're a nerd, if you're serious, if you like the color and the fun and all in between, sign up dailythunder.com. We've got free subscriptions. We have premium tiers for a little extra bonus exclusive stuff, including some really exciting projects we're working on that we think the audience will be excited about soon. Reject the stupidity. Check out dailythunder.com. We've got the frequent newsletter that sends you everything we got. We've got a once a week newsletter that just keeps you updated as the series goes along. We got live commenting. We've got plenty to stay engaged as a Thunder fan and not be so freaking annoyed by all the noise and all the stupidity out there. Thanks for listening to the show. Share it with a friend. Refer to someone who knows ball and stay on top of everything Thunder. Thanks.
Your thoughts on Bennett?
Okay, so I was very big on Bennett before the draft. I thought he was one of the guys that could be in play at 17. Ultimately, I just thought that because the Thunder have SGA and J-Dub and AJ Mitchell and Topic and Jared McCain, that they wouldn't take him. But as far as the player himself, I think he's outstanding. Yes, incredibly high IQ, great shooter, great playmaker. The whole dribble pass shoot, like archetype, that has Bennett Stirtz. He's got solid size. He's 6'4" in shoes, 6'6" wingspan. And I just think that he's a guy that if you look at the Spurs series, and obviously you cannot predict injury, but if they would have had a Sturts type of player with J-Dub and AJ Mitchell and Topic not being able to play, and the Thunder don't know what they have in Topic, Sturts would have been very, very helpful to have another creator, high playmaker, shot creation shooter, all those things would have been outstanding for the Thunder to have. So this is kind of insurance for all of the above, I think. And I think, again, it's just best player available. I think that the Thunder value these high IQ, high, like, as far as offense goes, and ultimately that's what cost the Thunder in the Spurs series because they didn't have J-Dub and AJ Mitchell. Like the offensive talent is just so good with him. Like he really, really is a special playmaker, shot creator, ball handler, and shooter. And I think his IQ is high enough and his effort is high enough, and he's got a decent enough size and wingspan where he can compete on defense, especially surrounded by this, elite OKC defense. I honestly think he makes a lot of sense from the type of player that the Thunder value, and ultimately was probably just best player available. They really liked him, and like just that archetype. And at that point, there really were no wings left that were good to take, quite honestly. This is a pretty wingless draft outside of like DeBonsta, Dalen Swain, Yaxel, and those guys were off the board. So once those guys are off the board, you just kind of take the best player, and there you go.
Did you like him more than Cameron Carr?
I like him as a player overall more than Cameron Carr. I like the fit of Cameron Carr more on the Thunder because of the size and the shooting and the athleticism and his ability to kind of scale up as far as his size go. But I do think that Sturts was the better overall player just because he's the whole offensive package. So yeah, that's what I would say. I had Carr higher for the Thunder just because I didn't think the Thunder would take another like point guard type player, but I do think that Sturts is the better overall player.
I think the biggest win for me tonight in a night where I was pretty disappointed was that Sturts is a bit older. He's a little older, Brandon, and to me, that gives me a little glimmer of hope. Maybe just Presti throwing a little Easter egg my way that if Yaxel had been there, his age wouldn't have stopped him from drafting him. I think that's gonna be the thing that that I walk away from this draft and just takes a little bit of solace that it wasn't gonna be the age that kept Yaxel off the team.
And so if the Thunder took a player where they already have guys at his position and he's 23 years old and they gave up 2 second round picks to move up one spot to get him, they must highly, highly value him.
Yeah, and for all those guard names I read off, like you said, Brandon, offense was the failure and specifically creation, right?
Right.
So even though they've got a million shooting guards who can pass, dribble, shoot, but they can't create, right? They can't shoulder like the real playmaking responsibility behind Shea. That was very clear. I mean, AJ was missing for the most important series for most of it. I would say AJ, even if you believe in him, hasn't really established himself as like a high usage run the offense guy against the best postseason backup units. Even his career is still, what has he played? Less than 100 games so far. And I'm not trying to trash AJ at all, but it's not like they have outside of J Dub, you know, totally reliable like floor general type, set and organize the offense and make things happen without anything breaking down. AJ is much more effective as a quick strike attacker and scorer. And same goes for Casey Wallace on down the roster. So I was honestly, I'm like you, Brandon. I like Sturts quite a bit, but not for the Thunder. I was saying I was worried he was gonna somehow fall to San Antonio and make and clear up in the near term their trio of guard problems and make that smoother for them long term, just because of his IQ and I think just solid ability that would let them kind of solve the De'Aaron Fox problem sooner than later. But what? So the other forwards, I guess we should say, were not forwards, wings. Swain got caught in the middle of the two places they got. I think he was probably the one that you might say got away in that range that they might have a chance. Well, they did have a chance at 12, obviously, but that would have been pretty high for him. Outside of that, we've got Alan Graves, who shot up way up to 19. Jaden
Toronto.
Quintance, who really sunk, not so much this last couple weeks, but sunk from his kind of uh, hype going into the season. We got Kareem Lopez. I don't think any of us love Kareem Lopez. Zuby,
That's an
Sergio.
that's an interesting spot for acquaintance. Like that's a bit scary that the Spurs got him and they kind of get a free swing at a monster defender if he materializes and is able to get healthy. Obviously, that's a big if. That's kind of why he's taken there in the 20s. But at full strength, that guy is a monster defender
Yeah.
and
Does he remind you at
could
all
be
of PJ3? Old Perry Jones?
no,
That kind of
no,
swing? No?
no, 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 no.
Higher confidence?
I thought you were talking about players, like comparing those players.
No,
As
just in
far
like
as
the,
just
super,
value swings,
yeah.
yeah, isn't that's interesting. Perry fell for very different reasons than Quaintance. I think Quaintance at healthy would have had an insane year at Kentucky and probably would have been, that there's a lot of Thunder stuff to Quaintance as well. He probably could have gone a lot higher had he been healthy and had a full year at Kentucky. That kinda scary to for the Spurs to get him, so but yeah, I had no interest in Lopez, like you mentioned. I was kinda worried that they'd take him at 12, to be honest. I was thinking either Ament or Lopez or Mara at 12, all guys that I was not super stoked about. I do think out of those 3 that Mara probably can get on the floor and help this team the quickest, whether that's, like we've talked about, whether those minutes are someone else is sacrificing less minutes to get him on the floor. I do think Mara will be effective, at least defensively, like pretty quick. Whereas way sooner than what I thought Nate Ament or Kareem Lopez could be for this team. Even though they are kind of the size and the wings that we're talking about. I just don't like those guys as players very much. Brandon's not here anymore.
Oh, we lost him. Okay. No wonder it's getting dark. We lost our sunshine. He sounded like he was pretty content. I was gonna wonder if there's just like, what about you? Like, are there, below 16, are you looking longingly at anyone under 16 that you
That
think,
we didn't take?
yeah,
Yeah, Cameron Carr. I wanted Cameron Carr. Like, once we picked at 12, I was just hoping that he would, last. You know, I kinda thought Chicago would take him, but then they took Swain, and then I thought Memphis would take a point guard. I thought they would take LeBaron from Alabama. Obviously, you just hope that, and he has been.
Oh my yeah, I'm sorry. Big realization. So the Hornets got Hans Christian Andersen. They got Hans Steinbeck and Christian Andersen. Sorry.
Mhm.
That was just an important name combination that actually happened.
But the but I did think that Memphis would take a point guard, and so I thought Cameron Carr would be available. Turns out he was
And
available
you were
to
right
us.
for a split second. He was very available.
He was quite available, and so that's the one that I'm, like, kinda bummed about. I just I know that
He might
Sturts
still
can
be
shoot.
available.
What's up?
He might still be available.
You talking about Dort?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I So, yeah, the car would probably be the one that I was, like, hoping would get announced, and again, full disclosure, when Sturts got announced at 16, I was pretty stoked because I thought, "Okay, they've got a chance at Cameron Carr and some shooting," but Sturts can shoot it, that is no doubt. I just thought I'm just with the way Presti is with athleticism, I just thought they would just go with the better athlete, but they went with the better processor and the higher feel player, which is a way that Presti has slanted more recently. So not a total shock there, but just thought, if anyone, I was just higher on Cameron Carr.
Yeah, but I would say Sturt's still kinda that high sticks out in Presti's record even in recent years, I think. You know, he's went for size plus skill more high in the
Mhm.
draft and more so, more polished. I wouldn't say non-athletic, but, not the super toolsy raw guys later in the draft, but getting a 6'3" kinda ground bound point guard that's pretty much all skill and IQ, at 16, I think that kinda sticks out for him, doesn't it?
I just in the fact that he can't defend
Well, that's yeah.
sticks out. Like, the fact that I mean, at least Cameron Carr put up, like, stocks in college, like, he had some like, he's able to use his, like, athleticism to get some blocks, get some steals, be in the passing lanes. I just don't see that as much with Sturts, like, I don't see I need
Having
to.
said that, who else was taken 16?
Who's that?
Jared McCain.
Very
So
true,
that's a second draft guy,
very true.
very similar profile. I mean, obviously different, skill sets on offense, but very much a limited defender, not a huge size, not imposing on either end.
But
Both can shoot it.
For both Carr and Sturts to profile as such high level shooters, I just thought they would take the athlete, the better athlete, the guy who you might think could stick on defense or develop on defense a little quicker than Sturts. But I mean, Presti, he does this for a reason. He's in that chair for a reason. So I'm not trying to totally doubt him on both of these picks, but I just given given the Spurs series and also just given the roster, I just didn't think they would go with a 7-footer and a 6'3" guard because that's what this team is loaded with.
Yeah, for sure. And the truth is, depending on how the next couple weeks go, it might make more sense in retrospect.
Yeah, yeah, it really could, and he said in his exit interview, Presti specifically said that some of these decisions could go longer into the summer and that they weren't opposed to carrying more players on the roster deeper into the summer as they have conversations and make decisions. So yeah, I agree. It's like this night could make a lot more sense. Again, that's why I bring up the Hardenstein situation. I obviously hope Hardenstein is back on a long term deal, but it's really hard to see that pick and not immediately have your mind go there, but I like Brandon coming in and saying, like, he was the best player after the board fell the way that it did. He's the best player up there. So you just take him and then you figure it out later. And again, there's ton that is how you do it. You know what I mean? You let if the board's gonna fall to you like that and you still have a player that, teams really thought highly of and that you apparently really thought highly of, you just take it and you figure it out.
Yeah, discipline is definitely one of his strong suits.
Certainly, certainly.
And again, they could both stink, and it wouldn't necessarily be because they were horrible choices. The 8 and 10 pick could stink. The 11 and 14 pick could stink, you know?
Yeah, this is the range of the first round that is just so historically hit or miss. That like 8 to 12, 8 to 14 range is just you have some incredible highs in Shea and so many others, Giannis, Kawhi, but then you have some really big whiffs in that range as well. So mm, it's just it's a crapshoot. It's really hard to hit in this range, but it happens. It happens a lot.
And there were 6 guards taken in the top 10. Do we think 6 guards are gonna pan out?
Yeah, that's a great
It
point. Like,
seems very unlikely, even though I
because
don't think in
it
your
feels like
obvious.
all of them are going to get the ball like right away, and maybe not Kingston in Atlanta, but for the most part, those guys are going to just be handed the ball and told to figure it out on teams that, for the most part, aren't very good. So yeah, it's
And they'll look good, a lot of them. They'll score more points. They'll play less defense, right? Their teams
yeah.
will lose less games, and Thunder fans will, be watching their highlights and being sad, and the truth is even year 1, year 2, year 3, maybe in year 4, you don't actually know how someone's panned out necessarily long term, you know? I mean, look at Paolo, you know, on, the roller coaster of his evaluation being a super solid pick to maybe a regretful pick now in short time.
And
So,
same for Jabari in that same class.
yeah. So we're talking ourselves in maybe not into the picks being home runs, but maybe not
No, I'm
getting
bummed.
over them.
I'm bummed overall for the night. Mainly because of the way the board fell. I understand the taking Mara at 12. I really do. Like, given just how things went, I do think there was a clear like drop, like tear drop in similar to like fantasy football. The guys get taken in front of you, but like, what are you gonna do? Reach down to like
Yeah.
tier 3, when you're sitting at 9 and in a 12-team league and you've got some heavy hitters off the board, you have to take the guy that falls to you sometimes, and it seems like that's what they did. Like, as far as value goes, I do think Mara was probably the best given what we know now. Given what we know right now about these players, Mara probably profiles as the best player after those top 11. It's just a bummer that 9, 10, and 11 went the way that they did. Because I think we would have been sitting here much more excited. Brandon, you, myself, probably ought to have been more excited about Merez if he was the one that, like, let's say Mara went 9 to the Mavericks or Mara went 9 or 8 to the Hawks and Kingston gets taken at 9 and then you end up with Merez on
Oh,
the
yeah.
board at 12. I think we'd have been
This
more
is
excited about that. I would have still I would have still come on here and complained about too many 6'10" guys that can only play center, but, like, I can see it a lot more with the athleticism and the physicality that Merez plays with, like Brandon's talked about a lot. That's why he had him, number 1 as far as Thunder fits, and I could certainly see it because he's a really good
Yeah,
defender
I mean,
in
I think
space.
I think honestly, maybe say I was not the biggest Michael Brown Jr. fan, but
Uh-huh.
every other player I would have rather had ahead of them. But that just means, like, they're more valuable. We were the 12th pick, not the 11th or 10th or 9th or so on pick, you know?
And what a wrinkle that 2 days before the draft, Dallas hires Michigan's head coach
Yeah, very interesting.
because
Yeah.
there was 0 noise about it was only ever Braden Burries at 9 to the Dallas Mavericks the whole time, and I'm he was on the board, and they passed on him,
Yeah,
and
I
I
don't know
just
if their fan base is super thrilled with that.
and the I just what a domino, what a domino effect of moving on from Jason Kidd and right before the draft, hiring a guy who I'm sure talked to so many NBA teams and front offices, giving his thoughts and opinions on those 3 guys to all these teams in the lottery. I bet he knew exactly how every team felt about every player, all 3 players
That's a
that
really
he
good
had
point.
going in the lottery.
Yeah.
And he probably knew, like, if you want Mrez, there's no trading back in to the back half of the lottery to get him. Like, this team loves him, this team loves him. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a wild dynamic to be introduced 2 days before the draft.
And you gotta assume that most likely he believed in Mrez most.
Yes.
You would think, right, for them to pair up, and,
Yeah.
they would be feel weird for them not to defer somewhat to his opinion, having just
Yeah.
coached all 3 of them. And then you also the whole Dallas it was probably just Masai trying to extort Presti, honestly, because if Dallas is sitting there with the Michigan coach and 3 Michigan players on the board, and if he can't convince Presti that he wants Braden Burries, like, Presti's gotta be very defensive about that, right? Like, if Presti's giving a tell on which one of those he wants and Dallas will accept it, it seems like reverse forward, reverse psychology, you know? Like for Presti to be like, "Well, they shouldn't let me get to 9 if I'm gonna take Yaxel," or if I like, it just feels like it's a hostage situation that probably was never gonna work out in the
And
Thunder's favor.
I wonder if Masai tried to bluff that they were after Mara and to try and get more out of Oklahoma City. If it
Those will
was
be fun
12,
calls. Who knows
you
how
know,
many those would be really fun calls that eavesdrop on, would they not? Masai
for
versus
sure.
Presti, like, poker
For
calls.
sure. It'd be like that's like Captain America and Iron Man during Civil War. The Presti move up, if he was really interested in Mara and they knew it, I wonder if they at least bluffed to him that they were thinking Mara at 9 to try and get, some assets, including 12 and 17 and possibly more to move back and still try and get either Yaxel or Mrez
Yeah, and as much as
or Burries.
yeah, yeah. But again, I wonder if Presti believed that I guess if he really wanted Burries, then he would have, not wanted, Milwaukee to have a chance at him either. But
Right. Them getting that 2nd pick, man, wow. Wow.
yeah, yeah, interesting. We'll see how they do.
I do hope that I don't think this is knowable information yet, but I do hope that both Mara and Sturtz play in summer league. Don't you?
Yeah, they got to. I mean, Mara needs Mara needs to run, if nothing else.
100%.
And I will also say, like, part of that is part of our just not maybe not you, but our just default draft bias. Like, you like the guys that pop off the screen and just not the ground bound guys, you know? And, you know, Mrez, like you said, Mrez, I don't know how much more I truly would have believed in Mrez, honestly, but he's just more exciting to watch.
Mhm.
He's more exciting to track his development and the kind of plays he'll be finishing and doing. That's just kind of the entertainment factor, I think, when you're talking about the young prospects. But yeah, I hope well, especially because Sorber and Topic will not be playing in the summer league. So
Right.
yeah, let's see some real, some real players that are in And I would also truly imagine that if no one gets dealt, that the Thunder are going to be hungry for every developmental minute they can get from all these
Yes,
young guys, right?
yes.
They have to see them.
We're done. We have to be done with red shirt years, and I know they aren't trying to because they can't control injuries, but they have to get looks at these real looks at these guys early because if you're going to have to make decisions on AJ or Hardenstein or Topin, whatever decisions they have to make, part of that evaluation is who would be playing, who would be filling that spot. And part of the part of the value of the draft is resetting some of the contract timeline. And you can't really do that with confidence if you haven't seen these guys on the floor. So get as much as they can get Mara and Sturtz on the floor summer league, that's
You think about last year, you know, one, they get out to a 24-1 start. Two, J-Dub is missing the bulk of that and the bulk of the season and the end of it. So there was more developmental time to be had, period, than we'll probably see this season, assuming they're pushed more early and knock on wood, Jalen Williams is playing way more minutes, you know? Now Wiggins is gone, but they're just it's going to be a bloodbath just to get on the court. Not to mention Jerry McCain being on the team now. Like it is going to be a competition for every second of PT, I think, for any of the young guys.
no question. And I think it's inevitable that I do think it's inevitable that we see, Sturts and or Mara get some G League time at certain times of the season. I think it's prudent, right, to get the minutes when there aren't that many to be had night to night on the Thunder.
Yeah. Even if they're pretend minutes, you got to learn what you can. And also kind of looking at the back end of the draft now, one thing I am reminding myself and try to remind everyone, like I really do kind of view honestly, I'll take your car note, and you might be right, but for the most part, all the guys behind, if you want to go Ibuka, who shot up, he seems like like a big swing potential, really dynamic player, right? We got a lot of very very heavy maybes, and even darlings, um, not a ton of star power. You mentioned San Antonio, but we're just gonna say they're not gonna get this lucky. It's not right. But there are also veteran role players in the NBA that can be had. I know it's not the easiest to acquire them with the cap strap situation the Thunder in, but just say partway through the season, the Thunder have that glut of guards, and the next Wiggins, whoever the next Wiggins is, I sound so pessimistic, I guess, but players are going to age out, players are going to get pushed out for playing time, and the Thunder have those contracts, and they have plenty of draft sweetener that even if God forbid, a horrible injury or something just makes it to where a guy's just a total, just dead weight on the rotation, and you need that help on the wing or on the perimeter, wherever. They do have assets to get it done without it doesn't have to come from, picks in the teens or the 20s.
Sure.
And that's one thing I've always said, like, and that's why I also say, like, overpay iHeart if you got to, because worst case scenario, if he becomes totally overpaid, you can get off of it. They're not the typical championship team that has, totally mortgaged their future and get, like, every other year a really crappy pick. Like, they got a bunch of these still. And not that I know Presti doesn't want to spend a single pick on a negative, to dump a salary or something, but I just think you know, the draft is not the end all be all to replace every single spot in the roster. I think that would be nice, and that's probably plan A, for them to develop and build long and slow and cheap and young. But to remain in the contenders circle, they have other ways to fight that battle, I think.
Yeah, I totally hear you there. It just that's the more expensive route, obviously. It can be at least. And
Dynasties are expensive, Ryan.
what's
If
tough
we
well,
win a
what's tough
dynasty, it
with
might cost a little bit of money. Might have to pay a little
Hart
tax.
quote unquote overpaying for Hartenstein, that probably means you have Hartenstein because that's going to that more money is going to push you into certain apron areas that limits how you can trade, limits how you can make moves
Right,
in
but
that way.
that's why overpaying with the apron is actually not a bigger problem than affordable contracts outside of tax. But you and I are not paying the tax, remember?
Right, it just becomes a monster bill for ownership.
Right. But
Um,
since you can only do one-to-one trades, you're technically better off the bigger the contract that you have to move, the better because you can't aggregate. So
well,
in order
but yeah, but things have yeah, I hear you, but things also have to be going well. Like your asset can't be so distressed and overpaid that no one will trade for it. Like De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox at some point is going to be old enough and still owed enough that no one would trade for it. Even if they even if they're not in the second apron, even if they have no restrictions as far as what they can trade, how they can trade. No one's going to trade for it because
not straight up, no. That's what I'm saying.
they've
Yeah.
overpaid for a guard.
Yeah, not
We
straight up at all. No.
Right,
But
so that's what I'm
if
saying,
the
like
Spurs, needed to s sink some of their draft cash into it, and frankly, the Spurs, as good as their top end is, they are much thinner than the Thunder, long term on their long term sheet. So the Thunder just have the deepest team, the deepest roster, and still one of the deepest pockets in terms of draft picks. So yeah, I know I'm definitely talking like a spoiled brat, spending other people's money and spending other people's picks. But if you've got to, they the Thunder have big market tools. They have all the tools that a big market would want for a championship roster, you know, and part of their strategy might not be just to, win every edge and do money ball all the way up into the just under the second apron, but it can also be like, we're here, we're on top, we're fat, we're making money. The team is worth billions, We're getting another bill coming for the arena, and we can manage this thing from a position of power. Um,
yeah. Yeah, I totally hear you.
and honestly, as a fan, I expect and demand that because they
Mhm,
could sell the team for billions of dollars.
mhm.
Like I don't want to hear them cry poor. You don't have to own the team. You do not. You don't have to own and maintain. And they to be fair, they haven't all the projections come from the fan base. The owners have never really cried poor. They
Mm,
cry small
100
market disadvantages, but
yes.
not we don't want to pay for this team.
That's very well said.
Sorry, I'm on my soapbox. But
No, that's well said. I think all signs point to this ownership group being ready to pay for this team. It's just as we've seen, every dollar over that
it's a
tax
lot. It's a
line,
lot.
it really multiplies and it racks up pretty big. We saw the savings that they get just from trading Wiggins 9 million, next year, 8.5 million next year. It's gargantuan savings
And the other
by
thing I
just
would
moving
say,
8 million.
even if my preferred strategy is an obvious, way to compete and maintain your edge, if the Thunder really dominate, a lot of people are seeing them as neck and neck with the Spurs, and I can't argue with that after them losing in the Western Conference Finals. But if they were to be that kind of, head honcho, deep pockets uh, in the small market, we've talked about Presti talking about, the CBA is going to be renegotiated pretty soon. before they're paying their first repeater tax that same season. But also, we also see how much the NBA hates the Thunder winning and are trying to get the rules modified. And they hate tanking and consider the Thunder to be tankers, even though we don't have to relitigate. They were, they didn't. This was not the KD Russ Harden rebuild with those top 5 draft picks earned from their own tanking. But anyway, all that to say, like the league could get even more restricted for all we know, and they could say, you're entering your repeater tax, and now there's a I don't know, you know, a quadruple, quintuple tax, and like you get relegated for having too many who knows what they could pull just to try to break up the power if they do it that way. But we're totally in fantasy land now. But
I to bring us back to the draft from tonight, I am just looking at Mara's like specs 7'4", 7'4" and a quarter, 260. So this is not Chet Holmgren at 7'2", 190. This is 7'4" and a quarter, 260. He's 21 years old. His standing reach, 9 feet 9 inches. We're talking about someone who can grab the rim essentially while standing flat-footed. Wingspan 7'6". I do find it interesting that at 7'4", he only has like a plus 1.75 wingspan. This guy's this is a big guy.
he is.
Pretty insane how tall this guy is.
I just don't see a future center next to. He just doesn't seem like the future starting center for the Thunder.
I agree.
And
I agree.
you,
I would
let me read you some measurements.
I would love for what we just said to age poorly. I would love to be wrong
Well,
about this.
I'm gonna read
And
you.
hand up, I came on this exact post first round podcast 2 years ago and was really frustrated. Sorry, 3 years ago, and was really frustrated that we traded from 12 to 10 and didn't take Grady Dick, and instead we took Case and Wallace. And Brandon jumped on and was like in love because that was his guy, that was who he wanted. And I was saying we have too many guards. How are we going to get minutes for this guy? And he made 5 threes in the first half of his first summer league game.
Yeah,
And uh, I've been proven wrong over and over in these situations by Sam, by that staff. So I'm really, really hoping that this is just another one in the pipeline of being wrong about my feelings about their draft nights.
yeah. But what's the point of the draft other than get your hopes up and then get them crushed when they
100%.
set? Yeah,
This is like a sport unto itself.
yeah. And we're making, that's this is the second sport for the
Bring me
NBA.
summer league. Bring me summer league. Go put Sturtz and Mara in the starting lineup of every summer league game, and let's roll the ball out. Let's see what
I do
happens.
gotta read these measurements.
Go ahead.
7'1", 258 pounds, 7'9" wingspan, 9'7" standing reach. Guess who that is?
Say the height one more time and weight.
7'1", 258 pounds. Rudy
His
Gobert just played
okay.
off of the defense defensive player of the year monster. Just totally played off of just a total liability against the Spurs. So we really can't think of this as a Wemby pick. We cannot. It's not. It's it's it's
Yeah,
it's so
there
unrealistic. It is
aren't
a
Wemby
backup
picks.
center pick.
There aren't Wemby picks.
Yeah,
There is no Wemby stopper in the league, and frankly, the Thunder held their own just fine against him, aside from the one game that they didn't play Hardenstein on him in game 1. They tried with Smalls, and it didn't work.
yeah,
Like, that's kinda how it went. Hardenstein did a great job, which is why I'm hoping to see an extension. That's a great option. League-wide, that is a great option against Wemby, is the way Hardenstein held his own. and that was without J-Dub. Like, J-Dub is another option I think they would try, and again, they did try him in game 1, but if they correct? I'm not crazy, right? J-Dub got hurt in game 2 of the Spurs series.
He did, but he didn't match up a lot. It was pretty
It
much
was it wasn't a lot,
Caruso,
but he played.
but yeah. And that
But
wasn't so irrational, even though I didn't love it out of the gate, but
no, no, no. But my point is that Hartenstein with J-Dub on the floor as well as, like, this ball hawk and with Chet as, like, you're hoping that, like, with those 3 on the floor that, like, you're gonna be able to contain a lot of the stuff that didn't go well in
yeah.
game 1.
It doesn't just have to be the entry pass.
A hundred
It's the whole
Yeah.
there's so much more
electrified
to it.
and half
Yes.
court defense that
It's
they just miss so much without
it's
full
the
strength J.
rotating, it's the spray, it's the rotating when the ball moves, like, all of it, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, I that is interesting, the Gobert. I was gonna guess, Klingon, but he's much bigger than that. I thought that's what you're saying. I did wanna mention that Spencer, we're talking during soon after the pick, and the 12th pick was made, and he just mentioned that he likes the value for Mara at 12 a lot more than he likes the value for Klingon at 6.
Yeah, honestly.
So, if we're just talking about, like, bigger, bigger bodied centers, more traditional rim protecting centers, maybe more drop coverage centers that you probably got better value out of a guy in Mara than the Blazers did with Klingon, but obviously a very different draft.
Yeah, but, it would have sucked to have the 12th pick in that draft instead of this one. So,
Well, we did. We took Topa.
that's right. Dang it. Here, I'm trying to be positive. Toby is gonna prove us all wrong.
Sorry, just to clean that up, Klingon at 7, not 6.
Okay, okay.
The I'm curious, man, that Sturts pick is an interesting pick for Topic, given that we're not gonna see Topic in summer league, probably, Topic, they say he'll be ready for training camp, but an interesting opportunity right away for Sturts to, surpass Topic potentially, because like, Topic, we don't really see as much of a defender, same at least today with Sturts. But Sturts can shoot it, and as far as, like, processing and pick and roll play and decision making, we we love that. That seems to be the calling card for Topic, but you're now adding that kind of player plus range shooting off the dribble in Sturts. Like, I think you could be looking at, the clock ticking really quickly on Topic.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'm rooting for Topic, I think I'd be disappointed if Sturts wasn't really more of a McCain equal in terms of what he's the competition, you know? Because Topic is at 0. He's at 0, you know? He's not a rotation player at all at this point,
Mhm.
and you pick the 22-year-old that's super polished, you know?
It's just such a bummer to be able to say that about Topic 2 years after he was drafted, like, we still feel that way.
Yeah.
That's a bummer, and again, just a run of really bad luck and unfortunate circumstances for him that we're saying that, but that's still the
Yeah, I
case,
mean,
and it's a bummer.
you can't get worse than ACL, cancer, back surgery. Like,
Yeah,
the poor
that's a
guy.
brutal run.
Yeah.
Like,
And
aside
it really,
other
really sucks because these guys are, like, at the precipice of, like, their dreams,
Yes,
Like,
yeah,
not long before that draft, you know, he was on top of the world. He was gonna go higher. He was himself physically. He had none of these worries, and what if and when I'll say, he makes his way, he just might not have time for it to happen on the Thunder. But what a triumph it'll be, That is a long road. That is a long road to recover from.
but other than that, what did you think of the play, Mrs. Lincoln? You know?
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
Tough,
Having said
tough.
we were there with Chet at one point, you know? Great. We just got him and he's broken, you know?
That was a brutal, brutal
Yeah.
initial injury with Chet.
Yeah.
After an insane summer league, I'll never forget his first summer league game, Chet's against
And it was
Utah.
also that was already our biggest fear though, too, you know,
Yeah,
that Chet was gonna snap in half.
yeah.
And he didn't make it to the regular season.
I'm certainly hoping for better outcomes for both Mara and Sturts regardless.
Yeah. But I think
Because they have an interesting opportunity in front of they're joining an insanely good team, and yet they still are looked at as, they're being viewed as players that could contribute pretty early.
yeah. Alright, well, you know, they'll all get traded tomorrow, or someone will tear their ACL tomorrow, or Mara will be the starting center, who knows? We have no idea. We have no idea. But,
So much to come. We will definitely be talking a lot more about this. We may hop on here uh, after pick 37, which the Thunder still have as of now. Obviously, watch this space when it comes to that 37th pick. That could be something that moves around. So yeah, we may have some cleanup to do as well with more stuff between Mara and Sturts. I'm sure they'll be making their way to Oklahoma City tomorrow.
so far, they have acquired more than they have sent out from last year's crowded, roster and cap sheet.
Yeah. So
They're
obviously
even
they're
on second round picks, and they have one more incoming rookie than they have space for on the roster. And they traded out, so they plus one player after sending out Wiggins, but otherwise same amount of picks, same value of picks, and they've got between 3 and 6 first rounders in the next 3 drafts. So even if this one is a stinker, it's not the last one.
certainly certainly, and they're sitting on what could be, they're sitting on what could be some gold in those picks from other teams, given the new lottery situation. Did want to note that the Nuggets completely traded out of 26. Thunder fans, if you're looking for an ownership group
Oh my
that
gosh.
is signaling how much they don't want to pay for a competitive team with what some people think is the best player in the league. Like, go watch the Nuggets. Go watch how they do business. Go watch how their fans react to how they do business. Trading 26 for future second. Just watch that space for a little bit, and then you'll probably come back feeling a little better about the Thunder and the outlook because that's tough.
The Nuggets
That
are
is tough.
cheap.
They have a lot of decisions. They have a lot of
Famously,
decisions to make.
the famous ownership group, the Kroenke, is not group, owner, is cheap, like in the classical sense as a sports fan. And their team was rough already with the, reigning MVP going into last season, right? Jokic, and clearly needed help and clearly made financially motivated decisions while still trying to retool and stay good. And now they're saying, well, that team was not good enough, so we need to get in even cheaper and invest less in it. It's like, yeah, they're cheap, 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 and maybe that's partly a vote of confidence in the Thunder, but it's also just, we haven't watched our own team be stripped away when they're like a
Mhm.
conference finals plus team, an MVP team, right? I mean, the rest years were not that good playoff wise, right?
Yeah.
And they kept dumping it in. You could,
Oh, they were paying for a much worse team. There's no doubt about that.
yeah.
Mm. But just an interesting back half of that first round. No, there's a couple trades that were made, but I just found it
The
interesting
Knicks,
that Denver,
did the Knicks,
given that, yeah, the Knicks traded with the Lakers.
they moved
Cam
up,
Carr went to the
okay.
Lakers.
But I mean, that's another one where they just won the title and James Dolan is shouting to the world, we're going to duck the second apron.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, first round guaranteed contracts, they add up. The Also, just that Denver, like, we have as many first and second that belong to Denver as they do between now and
yeah,
2030,
yeah,
and they just traded one, in a draft where people were still really liking a lot of these guys late in the first, and they just punted straight out of the first round for a couple future seconds. So
mm, hmm and the
just
Mavericks,
noting that.
Mavericks and Nuggets are
What's
our
that?
the Mavericks and Nuggets are our bets right now, and
Yeah, they
Mavericks
are.
are going to be a playing team. They're going to have really good lottery odds, barring some. Now Cooper Fleck's really good, but you know, I don't see them being better than a play-in team at least next year. And
Alex Caravan from UConn found his way into the first round. I thought he might be a target at 37.
Josh Jefferson got taken. Some of those darlings are that we were looking
Mhm.
for in the second round. Sergio was one of those.
Yep. He went to Dallas.
Yeah,
But we will, definitely be, um, obviously keeping an eye on 37 tomorrow, and, we'll be back to dish some more about tonight and tomorrow's pick
and the off
and
season and
or
the options.
and the off season. Yeah.
hmm The options, the queso deal or no deal.
Yeah.
Plenty,
100%.
plenty more to. I would bet on more stability and continuity overall, but again, 15 roster slots, so something's gonna give
Yeah.
at some point.
Yep.
All right,
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for listening, Cray. Thank you as always. Good to have you talking draft stuff. I know this is not your block until we get right up to it. So thanks for jumping in. We will get more. Be looking for more from Brandon on the website as well from tonight and from the upcoming introductory press conferences with Sam. We're excited to hear his thoughts too on the process and the guys that they took. So thanks for listening. This is the Daily Thunder podcast. We will talk to you soon.